Yeah. I,
No, I think we take I think we take, and I don't know if it's been done before, but where I give you tons of credit on really being a direct architect of my successes in a number of multi-million dollar businesses.
that's an amazing intro. And I just started recording before that, not knowing you were going to say that. So we're going to just leave that in there. And now I'll have some cheesy music. Today on the show, Joe Mullings. Um, that was great. Joe, how are you?
Good, T. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Good. How long have we known each other?
Let's see. The PDR in no West Point PDR. Whenever
Was
the
it,
West
was
Point
it
PDR
West
was.
Point? That was the first one. I don't even know
Yeah,
when that was.
yeah.
90,
It's got to be. Well,
20.
it's longer than I know, Lynn. So it's got to be close to 20 years, maybe.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Isn't
Super
that
crazy.
crazy? So I met Joe, and we released just audio. Although I am recording this, I could put it on video, but your office looks so much nicer than mine. I'm not going to show that, but we met at West Point. That was a pretty big seminar. I think there were 30 people there, 40 people there, and that was a blast. But there was something different. You were a lot older than a lot of the people there, but not just older physically, but also mentally. The way you looked, and I remember, in the beginning, wondering if you were going to attack me during the seminar because you had piercing eyes, and I was like, "What is this guy staring at?" Like this guy is like, it was just the how intense you are when it comes to learning anything. And I really read body language. So everyone's kind of sitting there. And a lot of people have that, because I've been in the martial art magazines and stuff, they're like, that kind of like, oh my God, that's Tony Blauer. And you were leaning forward, you were on your elbows, eyes pierced, kind of how you're looking at me right now. And I realized, very quickly by the end of the first day that you're just intense. You're an intense guy. Have you ever heard that before?
No, haven't.
um, so why don't, because usually people know why, you can look at somebody's picture or their name and they know why they're on the No Fear podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll write something up, obviously, so they'll get some preamble. But for people digging into this, what's you're stuck in an elevator, Joe Mullings, and someone says, like, hey, dude, what do you do?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'll excuse myself because I'm coming off the funk, cold for a couple days. So I think, well, let's start with the stuff that might be most interesting to people. Martial arts background, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, um, founder of the Armory, back in, when was that? So it had to be, Matt was born '01. So '03, fighters coming out of there that I sort of kicked off their UFC career. Edson Barboza, Kurt Pellegrino, Hermes Franca, Matt Wyman, Marlon Moraes, current world champion jiu-jitsu Marcus Buchecha. I brought Shesh over here to the country. So I had started the Army as a white belt, which a lot of people found really interesting. But I knew what my end game was to build probably a dominant force at the 155 weight class and learn the sport and build a business. So that's the martial arts side. And before that, I had black belts in Aikido and Taekwondo. So did that for a long time. And I was always a businessman. So I'm 56. I got involved in jiu-jitsu at like 40. I love the sport. And to me, the sport itself is very indicative of life and business. I've built and sold multi-million dollar businesses. I currently run the largest search firm in the world in the medical device industry. And as I've always told you, that your your system has been incredibly instrumental in multiple successes of my businesses. And I've always looked at your system as I think you intended, super cerebral. It just happens in most people's minds to want to declare itself physically. And I think people are really shorting themselves on that. So I got a wife, two kids, and I don't know. like you said, I don't pick a lot of things to do. I fucking dig getting into a couple things intensely.
Right. What brought you to, and I got a bunch of questions about that, but what brought you to the first gig? I actually don't think I've ever asked you, how did you discover the system and then go, I'm going to go to West Point and check this guy out?
Yeah. So I was teaching quite a few law enforcement in Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens area, West Palm Beach area, and a couple of my guys.
I always want to interrupt there. When you say where you live, Jupiter, the comma and the Florida should follow way faster, because it sounds like.
Why did you assume it's Florida, T? You know me. I'm out of this world.
Right. Nice. Good save. So not Jupiter, the planet.
But I moved from Uranus to get to Jupiter.
Oh, wow. I can't even beat that, but I'm going to keep that. I like it. Okay.
Pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
So remember John Riddle?
Yeah, of course.
And Duquette and those guys. So I had been training LEO, and your name came up, and they thought highly of you, and I'm like, what is this stuff? So I went online. I think there was an online at that time, and I checked you out, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I do remember the PDR, and I don't know if it still holds true, but you had to write a manifesto as to why you think Tony Blauer should allow you to come to the PDR. And I remember I had put all my, martial arts accomplishments and all these things. And I remember waiting by the mail or the email saying, shit, I hope Blauer accepts my app. Right. So, I just went online, and again, it wasn't a physical thing that attracted me to the system. It was the intellectual side of it. And I just love to, combat sports anyway. So it was cool.
Right.
So that was what attracted me.
Yeah, that is cool. It is the most important thing. There's some very high level thinkers. A buddy of mine who I got to get on the show, JC Glick, who's a retired Army, he came and spoke at my camp a couple of years ago, and he said, yeah, finger splayed outside 90, weaponizing the flinch, super cool, but not the most important stuff in the system. There's a few, deep thinkers that go like your ability to improve and enhance your self-awareness and confront obstacles, i.e. manage fear and make shit happen, is the more important stuff. And if you get that right, you'll almost assuredly try to defend yourself through improvisation or your system. But the block is always the mindset.
Yeah, the block's the mindset. I was thinking about it last night. You introduced machine learning and AI before it was cool, because if you look at the fear loop, what it's doing is running through short-circuiting scenarios that people have already implanted in their head or saw in a movie somewhere. And instead, what you're doing between scenario training and constantly going through the myriad of drills that you have, you're laying down learning sessions, these algorithms that allow us to identify these patterns and allow us to identify these situations that were like optimal, less optimal, optimal, less optimal. And that's really AI and ML in my mind. So, that's what I look at. And that's where it translates to business. As you always said, there's so many ways a guy can come at you physically. They're not going to, fucking fly and get you. This is the way they're going to come at you.
Right. Right.
And it's the same in business.
I dig that reference to the AI stuff, because I had found a TED talk of, what the heck was the guy's name? Hold on a second. I found a TED talk by the guy who developed the Palm Pilot, and I was looking for his book here. I can't remember his name right now. It'll come to me. But he developed the Palm Pilot, and now he's in AI and Silicon Valley and everything. And I found this 20-year-old TED talk where he's explaining how he didn't agree with how brain experts and brain scientists thought the brain organized stuff. And he looked at it as more of a hard drive that was always trying to predict the future based on the information you fed it. Where, like, if I go to shake hands with you right now, that you get that Pavlovian response of you want to shake hands, but I'm just tricking you, right? So the brain is trying to predict the future. So if I say, Joe, have a nice, your brain's going, day, like, have a nice life. And I intuitively figured out how to create a self-defense protocol around that by saying, look, let's be a good bad guy. Let's analyze how people move. Let's do this over and over again. Let's do different body types, different speeds. And that was that mental blueprint, right? Which is the algorithm and so this is like 30 years ago, and a very fun, like serendipitous phase for me right now is all of this neuroscience and all the work on neurons and myelinization and all the stuff that's coming out. If you read the Talent Code and some other books, where I'm going, holy shit, like this explains what I was doing, not knowing why I was doing it, just through sheer like intuition. So it's kind of cool.
And it all maps to
business and life.
Business and life, the mind. And, the mind is different than the brain, as so all that you just referred to is the same thing in business, right? And that's really where I took this here's what happens every day in business. You get punched in the mouth every single day. Okay. Right. And as a boxer and a fighter, there were fighters who got in the ring who, when they got hit, no matter how hard they tried to not get distracted, they had a very short career in boxing.
Right.
And then there were guys who could take a hammer all day long, and then counted on that and now, have major brain damage. Right. And so what I think you always want to do is, as a businessman, decide that you have a steel jaw, because you need a steel jaw intellectually and emotionally and spiritually. And you need that endurance emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I think your system teaches how to constantly be increasing your emotional, physical, spiritual endurance on a day-to-day basis, as long as you examine that fear loop all the time.
That requires deep self-awareness, right? To me, what I've been talking a lot about lately is, situational awareness is like the big, everyone talks about situational awareness. And I go, but if you don't have self-awareness, your situational awareness is skewed. If you're not aware that you're lazy or an asshole or angry or tired or prejudiced, that's going to change how you see the world.
Correct. And then what you need to do is put systems in place. I talked about this last week. It was something I adopted about 5 or 10 years ago. Don't decide to like or dislike somebody in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
Tricky.
Because what happens is we spend the rest of the time justifying our initial opinion, and we are all biased consciously and unconsciously. And I again was consciously biased again by good athlete, right? Oh, tattoos, right? Oh, smart. Oh, smells good. Too short, too high, too white, too black. And then I'm fucked, and I'm short circuiting, right? So if you know that you've got a fault in your game, give yourself time to remedy it, but need to put controls in place in order for it not to become your worst enemy.
Right. I dig that. That's I remember reading that one going, because we make those judgments. They influence. I was talking, I just got back from New York, and this came up, and I was just talking about how we create, by how we define and experience, our own form of synthetic or actual PTSD. It doesn't have to be there, right? And I referenced an example where I got really bad food poisoning after eating at this pretty famous Mexican restaurant here, and they have this like legendary soup, chicken, avocado, and everyone wants it, and I won't eat there anymore, even though I don't know for a fact that it was from there. I go, like, that's what I ate after I got that horrible food poisoning. And so people would joke going, well, I thought you're a fear management expert. And I'm like, yeah, I'm managing my fear by not eating that soup again, but it's, that's the conscious bias manipulating my life. And we need to have that self-awareness and step out of that and do some stuff. You do a lot of other things, separate to the medical field. I mean, I see you online a lot at lecturing, coaching coaching people, and it looks like, and a lot of times, it's just the back of somebody's head, and you're coaching, but it looks like a school, university environment. Tell us a little bit of what you're doing with that.
Yeah, so I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of coaching of CEOs of billion-dollar businesses. I do a lot of coaching of small emerging entrepreneurs who have their first couple million in the bank, and they need somebody to talk to about really how to manage the best asset that everybody has is the people who work with them.
Right.
And really, maybe more importantly, that is how to manage yourself, right? And again, that's where a lot of the lessons you've shared with me have carried over to the business world. Next week, I'm up at Harvard, so I'm presenting at Harvard on the 8th or the 9th. I don't know what day it is, at the HBS Healthcare Alumni Association, and sitting on a real prestigious panel, and we're talking about subject is when should you get rid of your CEO in a startup, right? So I do a lot of that, and then I give back a lot. So I teach at universities, right, non-paid fees, because I believe that when you've been graced throughout your life, at so many turns in the road, that if not but for, you've got to really throw back into that pot the grace for everybody else. And you never know. My goal is to be on the list of the top 10 people that ever came into anybody's life. I want to be in there, and I make that a goal of mine on a daily basis. Like, either coach or Joe Mullings or my boss or whatever it is, I want to be that top 10 list. And that's what I aspire to do every day. And it declares itself through coaching and helping people find their self-awareness. Really, it's funny you brought that up, but that's real. All coaching is I can give you all the tools in the world, but if you don't know you're a moron, it doesn't matter where you apply them.
Right. How do you this is kind of like a improvised throw under the bus question, but how do you find, let's say you find somebody who asks for help, and you go, okay, this is a great candidate, I'm going to give back, and you suddenly realize they are a moron, but they don't. Where do you take that?
Well, that's where I really take out my New York and my radical candor that I just share with everybody whenever I coach. And in fact, I had a conversation with one of my team leads here. Yesterday in a meeting, I was, in the middle of a pretty intense session. Something went out online that shouldn't have went out online, and I insulted, or my company insulted somebody else's company, totally without intention. But I get why it was processed that way. So I called a quick meeting with my team, and I was like, dude, that should have never went out. And I was intense. And one of my senior partners in the firm grabbed me afterwards. She was mad at me, and she's like, that was not cool. You did that to so-and-so, and I don't want to hurt him. I don't want him to feel like his creative is kiboshed. And I'm like, that was not my intention. She's like, no, dude, that's how it came out. So I grabbed him this morning, and I was like, listen, I'm totally want to tell you that I apologize if I made you feel a weird way. But I don't attack you. I attack your work. And there's two different things there. And so that radical candor is critical in any relationship. So when I get answering your question, when I coach somebody, I tell them I'm going to be, radically candid with you. It's for your own well-being. Whenever somebody gets their stuff or their blankie attacked, nobody likes that shit. And I start out my coaching like that. I'm like, I'm going to attack your blankie that wraps you up really cozy, and I'm going to attack the shit that you think you're good at if I don't think it's empowering you, or if I think it's coming at the expense of people who are in your circle.
Nice. Were you always like that? Is that New York upbringing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's I think I can process it quicker now. And a lot of it was through my own self-discovery, right? So, I'm sitting here a little bit on a pulpit, but I was the one who was probably most broken. And when I realized I should put others before me, everything became tremendously easier. And that's not like some kumbaya tree hugging shit. I'm still the biggest asshole in the world. I'm nearly impossible, but that's what I try and index towards in every single interaction I have. Radical candor and generosity as much as I can possibly, throw out.
So that's your self-awareness allows you to kind of navigate that. So if self-deprecatingly say, hey man, I'm an asshole and this and that, and this is, and I believe that you believe that, but you manage it, you let it, it's like the Hulk, you let it out if it has to come out, if you had to protect your family, I can only imagine how you would explode. I mean, I've seen you move, we've trained together. And so there's that, but I guess the question I'm asking is, if you've got instincts to go a certain way, how do you, without exhausting yourself, stay focused on going, hey, this is the better path?
Practice, practice, practice. It really is. And I've become tremendously better. So it used to be immediate eyes roll up in the head. And
Right.
in my point of engagement was always mental. It was never physical. Physical's easy.
Right.
Anybody can engage physically. That doesn't require intelligence. My engagement in less than optimal situations when I used to engage would be to intellectually, or emotionally rip somebody apart. That's always more effective, right? A punch doesn't hurt, really. It's but when you can intellectually and emotionally assault somebody, intentionally or not, that's incredibly powerful and lasts generations. A punch in the mouth goes away in about an hour, but emotional assault lasts for a really long time. And I was an asshole for a long time, and I had to unwind that. And that was that was probably one of the most profound things that allowed me to know what it is to be a bad guy. And you and I know some of my history. And right. When you're a bad guy and you have those superpowers, but then you take those superpowers and point them towards something good, you're usually better than the good people who are good.
Right. Right.
Because you have a different depth.
Yeah. And it's a perspective that completely changes. Was there an event that flipped that switch? Was there something you said, if I don't change this, I'm fucking dead, or I'm going to jail, or I'm
Yeah. There were two events, right? So the first one, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I was too much of an entrepreneur in my 20s, and I had to pay back the federal government a little time.
Okay.
And so that was something that took inventory on some things with me. And, I align it like Joe Kennedy, right? Very similar to that. It was a business. It just happened to be on the wrong side.
Right.
But the one that really was profound was in Mallorca, Spain, about 4.5 years ago. I was I'm a, like you said, intense athlete. And I was a very, very, very good cyclist. And we were in Mallorca, Spain, with Hunter Allen. And those who are cyclists listening to this will exactly know who Hunter is. He's probably one of the best coaches using power. And we were in Mallorca training. And you got to be a Billy Goat out there. The Tour de France teams are out there and all that. And we were 3 days into the training session. And I was on a bike and just casual warm-up ride going down the street. Blacked out, crashed my bike, hit the side of the road. If you've not been to Mallorca, everything is lava and rocks. So we flew me back to the States. We thought that it might have been a pulmonary embolism, or maybe it was just dehydration. I wasn't able to breathe really well, so we were a little concerned coming back over the Atlantic. And a good friend of mine, Adam Bello, was head of the ER down here in Boca. And he said, listen, get in here, dude. I don't like the sound of this. Don't hook up with a specialist. Just walk into the ER and we'll get you teed up. I'm like, sure, Adam. I told my secretary at the time, Joanne, hey, I'll be back in an hour, right? And Adam pulled me in, pulled blood, did an x-ray, put an EKG on me, came back into the room 20 minutes later crying because he was a friend. He's like, you're in full heart failure right now. I was like, fuck, how, right? And because look at me, and my chest, my heart was inflamed. If your heart, there's something called ejection fraction rate. A normal person's is about 70. Mine was 12, so my heart was pumping at 1/5 typical volume stroke, which means you're not in good shape. So they threw me upstairs, and that was a big aha moment for me. Apparently, I contracted a virus. We believe it was when I was in Brazil, down there grabbing some of my fighters. And it's idiopathic, meaning they can't quite diagnose where it came from. And that's about 25% of people with CHF, congestive heart failure. And the stats on that are 50% of the people are dead in 5 years who have CHF. And you and I spoke very shortly after that.
Right.
You were one of the few people I shared that with. And that was a pretty intense call between you and I won't forget that. I'm thankful for it too. And that was a big moment for me. That was a big aha moment. Like, fuck, this life's got an expiration date on it. And it's not about you. And so what's your legacy? What are you going to leave behind? And that was, you know, as I call it, you know, punch in the face number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Punch in the face number 1 was my payback to the federal government. Punch in the face number 2 was me going, I got a lot of work to do and I got too many things to make right. And that was it. So those are the 2 things I think that were turnarounds for me.
Yeah. Holy shit. And I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, the name of this podcast is No Fear, KNOW Fear. And I can't even imagine. I said this to you when we talked and a couple of times since, just the idea of like being there, how surreal that is, because, you know, again, like everyone listening to this, like Joe's a serious world-class athlete in everything he does. And to have that happen, you know, it's one thing if you're sitting on your couch, 150 pounds overweight and something happens. This is incongruous with everything that you do and everything you know. And so talk to me and talk to the group. And I don't want to deflect with this because at the time you were doing your triathlon training and this was augmenting. And I remember you telling me, because I'm not a huge fan of sharks. And I remember us initially talking about
the ocean swim.
Yeah, the ocean swimming and stuff like that. And we were talking about cycle behavior and fear loop and all of that. And so what I'd like you to share with people is your personal, how did you know, how you looked at the psychology of fear specifically around that event, because that's fucking, I can't even imagine anything scarier than that, right? And what was your self-talk? What were you know, how were you manipulating yourself to get through that?
Yeah, so it was a little surreal, like you said, T. I was sitting in the ER, and part of me, and this is how effed up my brain is. So Adam says to me, you're in full heart failure. And he's crying, and I'm looking at him. And immediately, of course, I index towards my wife and kids, not wanting to leave them short. But immediately my head, like, you know, Spock goes, cool, life insurance is in place. Great, they're set, right? And this is just how my brain works, right? It goes down that list. And I mentioned earlier in the show that my company builds medical devices, and primarily the stuff that's not on the market yet, like the stuff that's really, and I happen to build, and this is serendipitous, 2 of the biggest left ventricular assist devices, which is sort of a mechanical implantable heart for those who don't know, and those who do know are shaking their head saying, no, it's not. Well, it keeps your left ventricle pumping. And I know the intimacies of heart failure. So in my brain, I'm like, how fucking cool is this? I'm actually a heart failure patient, and I'm probably going to get one of those LVADs put in me. Oh my God. Right. So that's how effed up my head is.
Right.
And then immediately, T, and again, I didn't think of you, but your system kicked in, and this is not a fucking commercial. Your system kicked in and said, okay, there's a choice you're going to make right now. There's a choice of being a victim, right, or not. So immediately, what is our plan to get through this? And in my head, I called from the ER, the top heart failure guy that is on my, happens to be, you know, on my quick call on my phone. And his name is Dan Burkoff. I'm like, Dan, and Paul Southworth, a dear friend who just passed. I'm like, hey, I'm here. This is where I am. This is what's going on. What do you think? And they're like, okay, brother, let us get you in touch with these, right? Hung up the phone, right? Immediately I look at Adam and I'm like, okay, what do we got to do? How do we get through this? And he takes me through that. I got myself an energy healer. I got myself the top heart failure doctor in the world and fired him subsequently 60 days after because he was a douche and he didn't vibe with my karma. So I empowered myself rather than sitting there with a doctor who was telling me, this is what's going to happen to you. This is what we're going to do. This is what you have to stop doing. And I know he was treating me as an average person, and I'm not an average person. Nobody listening to this is an average person. Everybody strives to be optimal. And so I knew right away he wasn't part of my team. So
this is if I can intercept here or interrupt here, because like that is very, very important just for everybody to listen to and talk about, because when we get scared, we are malleable. If I talk about, and I want to come back to that because it's very deep what you just referenced there. When a mugger or a rapist or a murderer selects a victim, their fear allows the victim to cooperate because the bad guy says, if you cooperate, I won't hurt you, which is a fucking lie. Why would you believe a bad guy? And I always made that joke. When you cooperate with a mugger, you get mugged. When you cooperate with a rapist, you get raped. When you cooperate with a murderer, you get murdered. And all of it isn't about a move or a technique. It's about your personal self-worth and how you see yourself as, in terms of value to yourself, to your family, whatever you do, and then decide, oh no, like this is their script, this isn't my script, and this is their movie, and I'm just a fucking extra that gets killed off in this scene. Wait a minute, I need to rewrite this fucking movie. So how much courage, folks listening to this, balls and courage does it take to fire like an expert who says, here's how I'm going to fix you? And I want you to just talk about that, not specific to that, but a little bit about the psychology and emotion around that, because we all, we go to a doctor or we're talking to a police officer, we're talking to a teacher, and we subordinate ourselves to their authority. And very often, you remember my quote about experts. Experts are people who've memorized other people's material. Mm-hmm. Like they're just, their expertise has been memorized. They're not innovators. Mm-hmm. And so take the mic and riff on that a little bit. Just this, because that's fascinating to me that you're here where somebody's going, you're near death. This is the expert. And you're going, you know what? You're fired.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a couple. So, and again, there was a beautiful echo chamber in my life. And if you listen, you can find what it is that you need. Again, without being Hallmark Kardashian, you know, I'll take you through a couple of things that, again, it's just coming back, and you have to look to find the way out versus have somebody leave there and go fetal on the floor and just quit, right? So, second day in the heart failure on the floor, the heart failure floor, doctor comes in. He says, "Okay, we got Lasix in you. We've put in ACE inhibitors, and we're going to put in basically things that slow down your heart rate and drop your blood pressure." That's what they want to do. They want to rest your heart and let it potentially have some cardiogenesis to it. And so he says, we're going to give you these drugs. You're going to be on these drugs, but things are going to happen. You're going to be tired all the time. Your sexual performance is going to drop off considerably because you can't get a hard on, right? That's what he said. And he used more elegant language, of course. And there was this fantastic New York nurse in the room with me. And she's quietly, appropriately listening. Doctor walks out. And I look at the doctor. He walks out. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever, dude. Got it, right? Because I can't disrespect that knowledge. And she looks at me and she goes, "Do you love your wife?" I said, "Very much so." She goes, "Then don't worry about that medication, because it's not going to ill affect you as long as you love your wife." Right? So that was number one. Two is a great friend of mine who is a doctor, but a PhD doctor and a startup guy who's made hundreds of millions of dollars, a good friend. He goes to me, "Those meds, stand guard, because What will be worse than you dying of heart failure is you becoming a cardiac cripple, that you buy in to the story that most people buy into because they read it on the internet, that you're going to sit on a couch, become fat, and you're going to die way before you die. And so all these messages were coming through. I didn't need to hear those, but they were just validations of when somebody tells you something, T, think about all the things in your life. Most people at best are average at shit. And that includes world-class surgeons or shit surgeons. But just because somebody has the title doesn't make them good at it. It just means they have the title.
Right.
And I'm a custom machine. You're a custom machine. Doctors are taught to go right down the middle for safety reasons, insurance reasons, and probably therapy reasons, right? Standard operating procedure is made for the masses. I knew I was not the mass. I knew I was the elite 1% of 1%. And that's not an ego. That is the survival mechanism saying, no matter what, I'm going to figure my way out of this. And I'm not going to go by anybody else's playbook, but my own intuition. Because our intuitions are our truths that if we follow them, they get us out all the time. It's when we dismiss them because of outside pressure or we're afraid what somebody's going to think. So my internal intuition has always been survivor. And as soon as I get through that survival, then it's overperform. And that was the game I played with.
Yeah. And folks listening to this, when Joe says, hey, I'm elite, I'm 1%, he threw that in there, that it wasn't an ego thing. It's how you need to look at yourself and your life and your family. And when you give yourself like the excuses, like, well, I can't do that because I'm just this, then this ties so directly back to, like if you don't value yourself, you're not going to defend yourself. And you've got to give yourself permission to fight. You've got to give yourself permission to win. One of the things we talk about when we're really doing a deep dive into cycle behavior and the neural circuitry of fear is a really simple thought that, scary shit is scary. And that's why they call it scary. And the more emotional you are about all of that, the less strategic and analytical. Therefore, you're not, trying to figure out what is the end game? What is the end state? How do I move? And that's that big, in the flow chart, and it's online, the challenge or threaten door, right? You're in the fear loop. Self-awareness says, oh, fuck, I'm scared right now. But intuition and instinct says, go through the challenge or threaten door. What's my plan? What am I going to do? So guys, when you're visualizing this, but it's got to start the foundation for this all is that you've decided, and it's, one of our, it's probably the big transformation question in our course. What will it cost you if you don't fight back? Right. And so I love this. I got goosebumps now. Joe for many, many years had the keen insight and the intuition to take this research and apply it to business to great success. And then, here he is, in a hospital, and you knew this map so well, you didn't have to Google it and go, okay, I'm scared to death here, I'm going to look at the cycle behavior. It's like, okay, I'm not dying. It's not even what's interesting is a lot of people who go through and get, feedback from people using this stuff in different parts of their life, they go through that. You remember the golden rules, right? Accept what's happening, get challenged, don't stop thinking. And but most normal humans will go, oh my God, I don't want to die. Where I don't even know if you remember thinking that, or if you went right to, no. And I remember you telling me some stuff like some metrics where you created your own little fucking whiteboard of points. This is how fast I'm going to recover. This is what I'm going to do. Do you remember some of that stuff?
Yeah, I do.
Because that's fucking crazy, right? I'd be happy. I'd be happy going, okay, I didn't die today. And you're like, you turned it into a fucking competition.
I gamified it, bro. I mean, I really did. I called up. I'm like, okay, what are the typical meds? Because on some of these meds, they don't want to start you into them too quick. And I asked why. And I said, what's the typical schedule and the dosage? Okay, what if we push that dosage? Because to me, it was like, if one is good, three is better, right? I gamified the whole recovery, and I gamified it because what that does is takes you out of the emotional hostage situation, right? Because
Right.
if you gamify everything, it puts you in a different mindset, and it doesn't mean create folly out of it, right? And it doesn't mean minimize it. But if what you do is you gamify it, it takes you out of that judgment zone because you know we went through everything. I mean, like I said, I got an energy healer, and Lisa, I won't say her last name. Lisa was, I think, probably more important, other than my wife, the reason for my healing, because she allowed me to cut ties to all of the conventional solutions. And that goes back to me having that presumption of, okay, these are my outcomes,
Right.
based upon medicine and statistics. And you're not a statistic. That's, again, stats are for right down the middle.
It's interesting. When you say gamify for other people, would you say that's synonymous with like the whole biohacking mindset of how do I not? Is in your mind, is that different? You know what I'm talking about? Like the Tim Ferrisses and Dave Asprey's and people like experimenting with different things, going like, how can I improve, by experimenting in my body using these different things? Same sort of thing, or
Yeah,
different?
a little bit. So what it is gamification to me is, so I'm going to align this for the listeners. The things I demand in my organization are not good or bad. There's optimal and less optimal, right? And there's because there's only outcomes in life. There's no good or bads, because as soon as you put a good or bad on something, then it puts you in a negative or positive state.
Right.
And so, right, so optimal, less optimal situation. On the gamification, what I did was I just took a series of activities that I can control, which is everything,
Mm.
right? Um, and that's a profound statement. I just took the things that I could control. Click, by the way, is everything.
Right.
And then I created a path for those along the way. And I didn't leave anything out. My energy healer, my drugs, my heart failure doctor, my exercise bike, right? My diet, my rewiring of the brain in order to release any anxiety I had in my head, or release anything that would be less than optimal on literally every single second of every day. Read all the heart failure books I could read. The Heart's Code. If you haven't read the book, put that on your list. So I did everything I could, which is everything I needed to heal. And today I'm like at 58% EF, which is the same as yours almost. The docs are fucked. They're like, what? Mind blown.
Right.
Mind blown. Right. And it's only because of that.
Yeah. And I also was thinking while you're explaining the gamification concept is that it, where the biohacking element is more you're experimenting and then you're observing. So you're actually subordinate to the experiment. How does this work? As opposed to the gamification, as you were saying it, I had this epiphany that it's more of an adventure and it's a psychological perspective and has less to do with the stages and steps. It's your,
right.
your
That's
attitude.
right. That's right. It's an adventure. I went on, and you know what, T? I'm going to take that from you like I've a bunch of shit. I made my healing process, or actually my growth process. It wasn't a healing process, so I'm going to take that. I made my growth process a fucking adventure. And every adventurer, when we think about it, the ones romantically that the people who control the curriculum allowed us to read in school, made their adventure always moving forward. And right, the guys who did well, or the guys who really crushed it, always moving forward, made it an adventure. And listen, I'm not going to dismiss statistics. I'm not going to dismiss conventional wisdom, but I'm not going to bet my life on either of them.
Right. I dig it. I dig it. And it's, people listen, a lot of times, I just have talks with interesting people. Like I have no agenda on this show. And so, but, one of the things I do is kind of, float above and go, okay, if I was a listener listening to this, what's my takeaway? Where am I, where's this conversation going? What can I learn? What can I apply to my life? And so I want to kind of like dial that in here. If you read any of the Stoic books, Ryan Holiday's books, if you read Man's Search for Meaning, there are universal truths and people who go, look, the classic of you can't control what happens, you only control how you think about what happens. And that's what Joe means, and how I interpret it is like where he said, I control everything. So some of you might be going, that's bullshit. You didn't control your heart when you went down. No, but like what he's talking about is when I say weaponize the flinch, right? You can't control the stimulus that made the flinch happen, but you can now fucking get back into the fight and face the danger. And that's what we mean spiritually about weaponizing the flinch.
Yeah. And thanks for that segue. So, you put it a lot more elegant than I do, T. This is how simple. This is very linear, although it should be circular, but think about it linear, and then we'll bend it around. There's the stimulus, right? And then there's your response to the stimulus. And then there's the sit in the shit bucket. And that, dependent on how much you've trained your brain, could be microseconds or could be lifetime. And then you access your toolkit, right? And then you dominate, right? And so you that's how I run it in my head, and it's directly lifted from you. That's the best way I process it. And so what I am constantly working on is I know in my environment, I know in my life, every single stimulus that's going to come at me. Because if I don't believe that, I'm ill prepared. So I already know every single stimulus that's going to come at me, every attack. Fuck it, there's not going to be an attack. My mom, my wife, me, something dies, something gets hit by a car, a spear goes into the side of my fucking head. I am not going to be surprised. So therefore, I immediately reduce my oh shit moment, right? When I hit my oh shit moment, I sit in that oh shit moment. These days, I don't even know if I know I must sit in them, right? Because everybody flinches. But I, in my mind, quickly get excited to jump over to the toolbox. Like, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Heart failure? Are you kidding me? Watch me beat this, right? And that's not like some fucked up thing. And then I've given myself a toolkit. It depends where we're fighting, right? If I'm sitting in a boardroom, highly predictable. If I'm in traffic, highly predictable, especially down here in South Florida, right? If I'm sitting in an airport and it's a JetBlue flight out of New York, highly predictable, right? And so, if you know that already, man, you can't be off balanced. And when you're off balanced, you can't access any tools, just nothing. And again, all your listeners know this through you, but applying that everywhere in life, with your wife, with your sig other, your kids, the psycho on the road with you, your business partner, you've been through so many attacks in your life. It's really not hard to manage. All you have to do is commit to identifying all that stuff. And I've done it in business to you. And like I say, I'm fucking glad I don't have to pay you royalties. I'd be
I'm not, but to sum up, when Joe says he knows every stimulus, every attack, if you're visualizing the scenarios that you operate in, and we talk about this in a simple language, how do I improve my perception speed, because that immediately decreases my reaction time or improves reaction time. And what you want is you want to pick up shit faster, and then you want to respond sooner, right? And so part of all of that is this relationship between the reactive brain and the cognitive brain, and get them to work together. Stimulus gets introduced too quickly. There's a micro flinch. That could be an emotional, that could be physical flinch. And then the weaponizing it is a mindset of saying, okay, this is a choiceless choice. I've got to fight right now. And a lot of this is interesting. You're 56, I'm 58. In the last couple of years, I've become this, verbal cliche, saying goofy shit things like, wow, I wish I knew this when I was younger, right? Like stupid things where I laugh. I go, I can't believe I just said that. Oh my God. You learn things, but do you agree with that? I mean, there's stuff there's a wisdom that you get when, you black out in Mallorca. There's a wisdom that you get just living 10 years. There's wisdom that you get, I mean, what a trip it is going to universities and talking to, 20 and 25-year-olds and going, I see myself. I see that. Holy shit. But here's the thing is, when I'm talking to my kids, especially my son, Nick, who's 27, and I say to him, listen, I'm going to share this with you. I want you to read this. You probably won't. You're going to say polite. You'll send me a little emoji that says, thanks, Dad. But I'm telling you, like, you and I didn't have mentors. There was no Instagram. There was no memes. There was no YouTube, right? And so, you know where I'm going with this. I mean, so those of you who are a lot younger than Joe, like, this shit's real. Absorb this stuff, because it took us decades to arrive at these truths.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the shit's always there. You just have to know to look for it and acknowledge it. And you and I know tons of people who are my age, your age, who still have not learned even the basic lessons.
Right.
And again, I'm not going to go through the shopping list of why, but having that awareness and again, I would, to your, not a commercial, is take the system that Blowers put out there and stop putting it physical. And if you're young or old, because it's always good to just go through the day and literally go through every interaction and shorten it, because it's a long system. I'm not saying skip anything, but in your mind, chunk it down like I did and use it everywhere. Like at the clerk at the checkout counter, 10 years ago, guy's eating French fries. He takes my credit card. He's licking his fingers, takes my credit card, swipes the credit card, gives it back to me, doesn't blink. 10 years ago, I would have been like, you motherfucker, you better give me a wipey now and wipe that thing off, right? Now, that same trigger went off in my head, but then I said, does that serve me well right now? And am I going to allow that to ruin the next 6 minutes of my life when I have a business call I need to be optimal at, right? And so all the same shit happens. It doesn't go away. You just process it differently, and you allow it to get put into the garbage bin of that doesn't serve me well.
Right.
And, if you can go through a couple of days using your system and chunk it down, people will see how powerful that is. And again, if you're 15, 21, 37, 75, man, just spend some time. Unfortunately, T is going to be like one of those guys after he's gone. It's going to be like 50 years after that, 70 years after that they're going to finally celebrate this shit and realize how profound it is. I mean, in life in general, really, seriously. Everybody looks at it because it's all physical and all the knuckleheads jump on that. But God, it's just so profound intellectually and spiritually, bro.
Thank you, man. I think I'm going to wrap on that.
Yeah.
Unless this is all I'm thinking about is like, fuck, you mean I'm going to have to die to get really successful and famous? And that's horrible.
I know it happened to Elvis though. So,
right.
Tell Jess to keep all the black light paintings around and
Nice. I need to get like a picture of me kicking and put it on like velvet or something.
That's exactly what I mean. Next to the one with the dogs playing cards. Yeah.
Right. I dig it. You're always so busy. What's up? Anything big and exciting happening that,
yeah, traveling all over. I usually have. So if you want to follow me, because a lot of the stuff I talked about with T today, I'm not really a Facebook guy or an Insta guy. I'm one of those unique guys on LinkedIn that has a pretty heavy following, and a lot of executives follow the stuff that I use. So it's just Joe Mullings on LinkedIn. Every day I put out stuff that is similar to what you heard today, also from a career perspective. My travel schedule on there, and the next I was just talking to my guys. I'm up with Gary V in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I'm out in San Fran. I'm up in Boston, New York. Yeah, all over the Telluride. By the way, we have to get out to Telluride, you and I, a guy's trip. So
let's do that. That sounds awesome.
Let's do that.
Joe, it was great having you on the show. Lots of wisdom, lots of insight. We'll have you back on again. And I will be, I'll see you. Let's do that guys trip, man. I haven't done something like that. And I don't know that I've ever done a guys trip.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Buddy, you be safe. Thank you for everything. And say hi to the family for me.
I will. Love you, buddy.
Take care. Bye.